Welcome to Leadership Matters, a podcast from the Bailey Group. I'm your host, Kaylee Thompson, president of and partner at the Bailey Group, where we believe better leaders create healthier workplace environments, healthier humans, and a better world. On this show, we explore real stories, practical insights, and honest conversations to help you lead yourself and others better. Thanks for joining us. Let's dive in. Welcome to Leadership Matters. In today's episode, I have the opportunity to speak with Barb Krantz-Taylor, licensed psychologist and pre-hire assessment practice lead at the Bailey Group. Barb brings over 20 years of executive coaching experience, and in today's episode, we dive into her roots in career counseling and talk about how she brings psychological sophistication and behavioral science to empower leaders to lead more effectively with more confidence, clarity, and courage. Barb, I want to start at the very beginning. Help us understand, how did you get into the world of leadership development and executive coaching?
Okay, it started a long time ago, longer than I'd like to probably remember. I was actually in high school, and I thought I wanted to be a sports writer. And so I got a job at a local paper. And during that local paper, I was covering local high school sports and not particularly doing a great job with the play-by-play part. And so my editor at the time, his name was Gary Goodfriend, I'll never forget him. He suggested that I interview athletes about their sports. And so he didn't give me much guidance. So I began to just interview students at my school and lots of local high schools about the ones that were stars, the divers, the basketball players, football players, and started to talk about why they loved their sport, how they got into it, and what kept them motivated.
Wow.
And that was fascinating to me. And realized I loved talking to people. Hated to write.
Yeah.
Loved to talk.
Wow.
And loved to listen. And so then I decided to major in psychology and sort of went from there. In college, I was majoring in psychology. I think I took as many psychology courses as I possibly could. And then got a job, part-time job at a suicide crisis hotline.
Wow. That's heavy work, Barb.
Yeah, I was, I think, 19 years old.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I can only begin to imagine the weight of a role like that. How did you manage?
Great training. I think it was about 2 months of training before they let me on the phone. And it was all about listening skills. It was all about listening deeply to where the person was without judgment and without controlling what they were going to do, but just be
Wow.
listening and being there for someone and letting them know that they weren't alone.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was the most influential work I've done. It was also quite stressful, and
Yeah.
decided not to do that for a career, but it was amazingly great basic coaching training.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So where did you go from there?
Then I decided that with an undergrad in psychology, I probably wouldn't be getting to do the kind of work that I thought I wanted to do. So I went right on to graduate school, got a degree in counseling psych, thought I was going to be a therapist.
Okay.
And then took a course in leisure counseling, to be honest.
What
And
is
then
leisure counseling?
It's like career counseling,
Okay.
only it was helping people find a life outside of work.
Wow.
I had a textbook called Leisure Counseling.
I have never heard of that before.
Yeah, it was really fun. And then I started also doing work, some coursework in career coaching.
Okay.
Found college student development, and then thought I was going to be a therapist for college students. So worked
Sure.
in a college counseling center.
Wow.
When I got done, when I was getting done with my program, got some really good advice about how, with a master's degree, newly minted master's degree in counseling, and not a lot of experience, probably would be learning on my own. And I really wanted mentors. I wanted
Sure.
to learn what I was doing. So I decided to become a residence hall director at Grinnell College. And Grinnell College was a unique residence hall system in that I only had 180 students.
Okay.
Instead of the average was about 700 in most large organizations. I had 180 students, and my job was like a live-in counselor. And so I didn't do discipline. I just was there for students. And I wandered the halls every night and got to know students, so they would come to me with everything. And as part of our job, we had quarter-time appointments in different areas of student affairs, and one of them was in career coaching. Working in the career center, and realized I really enjoyed that quite a bit.
So what about career coaching really spoke to you? Why do you think you enjoyed that so much?
I loved using assessments.
Mm.
So I learned about using assessments that help people understand who they were so they could make a choice that was rooted in their personality and rooted in who they really were. There's a company called the Hogan Assessment Group that we work with a lot. We use their assessments, and they have a phrase that I've never forgotten that says, can people change? Yes. Do people change? Not a lot. So even though we're talking to people who were 18 to 22 years old, they still had their own passions, their own interests, their own natural talents. And helping them get in touch with those and learn about what those were was so much fun. And watching students' eyes light up about what classes they were taking and how that could help them contribute to what they wanted to do for a living was just, I loved the practicality of it, and I loved that it was a little shorter term, and that it was a little more dealing with healthy people who were dealing with difficult decisions.
Sure. And what a full circle moment for you, starting with that leader that you encountered in high school who encouraged you to start talking with people and lit this fire in you
Yes.
to then be able to create those opportunities for others that changed the course of their lives just as he changed the course of your life.
Yes. Yes. I hadn't put that together, but yeah, I thought about him over the years and thought how if I could find him and tell him that he got me started
Yeah.
in this career.
It just goes to show how important leadership truly is and
Yes.
how impactful and life-changing it can be.
Yes.
Okay, so take us from where you were to where you are now.
So then I spent 3 years in Grinnell College and for being a residence hall director, and then decided I wanted to move out of small town in Iowa and move up to the Twin Cities. I had visited there. I loved the snow. So I wanted to come.
That's unusual, Barb.
Yes, I know. I wanted
love
more
the
snow rather than less.
Yes.
And so I moved up to the Twin Cities and was going to figure out what I was going to do once I moved up there.
Okay.
Had some ideas, thought I might go into sports-related work, thought I might do employee assistance program work. Ended up getting a part-time job as an employee assistance program counselor.
Okay.
And then shortly after that, that was part-time work. And shortly after that, I was applied for work at the University of Minnesota in their College of Continuing Education, as it was known at the time. And I was doing career work, career counseling for adults who were thinking of, what they wanted to do when they got big. They were all had been working for a while and realized it wasn't the right fit.
Interesting.
So what I realized was I learned that job taught me about everyone's experiences at work, what they loved about work, what they hated about work, why things worked for them, why things didn't work for them.
Interesting.
Learning how much bosses and how much coworkers and how much the people end
Yeah.
of work was so important to how much enjoyment someone had.
Amazing. What do you think would surprise folks about that line of work? What you learned in that line of work or what you were able to observe or take away?
I think the importance of that people, if they start with choosing work that fits them
Mhm.
and they're satisfied with their career, they're so much easier to manage. And if the leader of those people has done the same work
Yeah.
and has chosen a career that suits who they are,
Yeah.
that their leadership role, because leadership is a technical specialty like any other career. We
Sure.
can go to school for engineering. We can go to school for teaching. We can go to school for business. But leading people is its own technical specialty. And if you don't really like what that entails, the work of
Yes.
being a leader, which is partially technical of getting the work done and getting results, and partially getting the work done through other people, if that's not what you love, then you should not be a leader. And so learning the importance of people making good career decisions and helping them through each job they have, learn more about what they love, what they don't, and being able to successfully get into better fit jobs makes leading easier, makes team alignment easier, and you get better performance and better engagement.
Yeah. That's so powerful, Barb. And it all starts with that self-awareness to really understand who are you and what environments do you thrive in.
Yes, absolutely.
Fascinating. So where did you go from there?
Was at College of Continuing Education for about 7 years.
Wow.
And then at that point, they were starting a pilot program within human resources at the university, which was called the Employee Career Enrichment Program. And it was designed to help employees at the U find a good fit between
Wow.
who they were and the jobs they had. So,
That is neat.
yeah, so I went over to HR, piloted this program,
Amazing.
got my first taste of human resources, began being asked. I think I consulted with 150 different departments. I counted up one time how many different departments. In addition to running workshops and working
Sure.
individual coaching with employees, I started getting calls from the managers and the leaders who said, couldn't there be a better way to lead people? And if they loved their jobs, wouldn't they be easier to lead? Like, absolutely. What a wise thing to do. So then I started learning about team alignment as well, and learning about talent management. We didn't call it that at the time. Learning about employee engagement. So it was great to work at the U where it was doing the work, and I did lots of continuing education, lots of work with professional associations, taking classes whenever I could, taking workshops. They really encouraged that and supported that at the university. So I was able to learn by doing and trying things out and then seeing how they worked, because I always got feedback from the leaders and from the employees about what was useful and what wasn't.
Sure. What was the hardest part about that job, Barb?
The diversity of need. That what I learned was the diversity of people, and the diversity of what people wanted from their jobs, the diversity of leading people, the different styles that people have. I believe that there's a range of normal personality. You
Mhm.
know, that it's all between here and here, it's all normal. But I find that some people think only this part is normal.
Ah,
And so, both for themselves or when they're looking at other people.
sure.
And so, helping people understand the range of normal personality and helping them think about the work they do, that combines or allows, like a Venn diagram with three different circles. One of the circles is, what does a person love to do? What are their passions and interests? Another circle is, what are their skills and talents?
Hmm.
And the third is, what are the needs of the organization?
Yeah.
And the place where those three things overlap is the place where you get the most productivity, the best performance, and the most engagement. And so that work is what I started to do when I moved over to HR, was adding that piece, which was, what does the organization need?
Sure.
And how do you meet the needs of organizations? And then trying to find that place where there was the most overlap of those three.
Yeah.
And then what I learned is individuals had a view of what those three circles look like. Their manager had a view of what those three circles look like, and those weren't always the same.
Sure.
So getting those two people to talk to each other. So it was just, it was really looking at a system then, and learning about organizational development and about how groups of people and the importance of leaders, because I found some leaders at the university were so concerned about, they wanted their employees to find a good fit. And those were the better leaders. I found that the people were happier. They performed better.
Yeah.
They stayed longer.
Yeah.
It was great.
Amazing. And it also reinforces the importance of assessing. I mean, I remember when I first joined the Bailey Group, I was assessed to make sure. And I remember you and I having a conversation. Oh, Barb, I was so intimidated coming in to talk to you, which is so funny to look back on now. But I just remember thinking, oh my gosh, this licensed psychologist, I did all these assessments. She's going to see behind the hood and see how screwed up I am, or see all these things about me. And you and I had a conversation, and I remember the flavor of that conversation was you were really trying to understand what my interests were and what I found most motivating. And it seems so bizarre to me at the time,
Yes.
because I thought, well, I'm here to prove to you that I can do this job. But
Mhm.
you were just genuinely interested in me. And so that makes so much sense.
Right. And that gets, when I do pre-hire today, I know that by the time a candidate is coming to see me, they are technically qualified. that is the job of the organization that I'm partnering with, is they get to decide who to hire.
Sure.
They look at the whole picture of technical qualifications, experience, education. What I'm trying to help them understand is who is this person and how are they likely to react when they're not self-monitoring, when they don't have the wherewithal to be able to fake it or to do the right thing when they're following their hearts, when the stress is high, or when they're just being themselves. And those that want to do what we've hired them to do and are good at doing what we've hired them to do, it's natural then. It works. And when we have to find someone or work with someone who has to monitor themselves in order to behave the appropriate way for the job, it just doesn't, it wears off after a while.
Wow.
And people see through it.
So you've been in the world of leadership development a long time. What have you seen in terms of organizations' receptivity to this idea of get the right person in the right role over those years?
I think that by learning by mistakes, what I've found that over the years there is much more understanding that feelings matter, personality matters. I think there was many years ago, people just thought just go to get a good person in the job and you can get anyone to work hard enough that they can be successful.
Yeah.
And there are some people that are incredibly ambitious, incredibly results oriented, and that will work very, very hard to do what the appropriate thing is. But there's the emotional intelligence that is required for leadership because it's not just getting work done, it's motivating people. And although I hate that phrase, I don't motivate anyone. I never have. Leaders don't motivate people.
Why do you hate that phrase?
Because it's putting the onus of responsibility on the leader to figure out the employee and figure out how to motivate them. Motivation is an internal motivation. I motivate myself. If I have to rely on someone else to figure that out, they're probably going to be wrong. And it's not their job. Their job is to understand who I am, to describe the job they've got for me. And then hopefully find that match in all those different areas. And then I don't have to motivate. I'm a leader. I don't have to motivate anyone. If I help them find the right position and I'm honest about what that position is and what the challenges are, they're honest and they're self-aware about what's going to be happening, then it all works.
Fascinating. How controversial of a take do you think that is, Barb? The take on motivation. I heard you talk about intrinsic motivation. That feels like a hot take to me.
Well, leaders are often get it done people. What makes a good, what we think makes a good leader is we take the best individual contributors that we have who are doing their jobs so well, and then we move them into leadership because we think that they're just doing more of what they used to do.
But or they've earned
something. Leadership is it's like a different profession. It's a different career. And sometimes we take people out of what made them good. And so, but leaders are used to being self-motivated. They work hard. They do, no one has to tell them what to do. And so then they take that sort of take charge attitude into, all right, if someone's not doing what they're supposed to do, then I'm going to take it on myself to try to bring that out in you. And I appreciate the sentiment because the sentiment is that I want to bring it out of you. But that's not by reading your mind. It's not by telling you what to do. It's by learning about you. It's by asking good questions. It's about observing. It's about when does the light come on in their eyes? What have they done that has been so exceptional in their work? When do that's what Gary Goodfriend, my first leader, found, is that when I started writing these articles about students, I started writing better. He said, we are never bringing you back to play-by-play. You were going to interview these athletes for the rest of your career here. And I enjoyed it more, and I did better. And that lesson just stuck with me.
That's really helpful, Barb. I think about the old leadership mentality of the carrot or the stick, or how do you motivate people? What role does
extrinsic motivation play? And I actually think of a lot in terms of my own parenting philosophy, in terms of I think the parenting approaches of the 90s and 2000s were all about extrinsic rewards and pay kids for every book they read or every grade they get. And the research is very clear that the more that you introduce extrinsic rewards, the more you actually take away that intrinsic reward center. And kids who used to just read for enjoyment won't do it unless there's some sort of extrinsic reward tied to it. So
Well,
it's fascinating to hear that in the context of the work environment.
yeah. People want to be appreciated.
Yeah.
They want to be thanked. They want to be recognized to some extent that they are competent, worthwhile, valued, cared about. That's what people want. When we ask the average employee, what do you want in a leader? They tell us for years, they've told us the same things. They want someone who listens to them, someone who cares about them, someone who values their opinion and their thoughts, who appreciates the work that they put in. They don't want someone who's the smartest person in the room. They don't want someone who makes all the decisions and acts like the expert and knows more than other people. They don't want someone who pretends to listen, nods their head, and does whatever they want. People really do want to be valued, and so rewarding people in ways they want to be rewarded. I'll never forget, Lee. Years ago, I can't remember who. I'm not sure if you were there or not, but he wanted to show his appreciation for me. And one day I showed up and I had shared a picture of one of my dogs doing agility.
Yeah.
And I sent that around to people in the office. I said, here was a picture of my dog doing her thing. He got that blown up and put into a frame. And when I came into the office one day, he had presented it to me, and it still hangs in my office today. It was one of the most meaningful. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money. It doesn't have to be a promotion. But knowing who I was and what was important to me, and that gift was so special. And Lee was so good at that. He knew how to do that well.
Yeah. Yeah. Still does.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing that story. That's amazing. So tell us about the transition from the U of M to the Bailey Group. I can't think of two organizations that could be more. I mean, you went from a totally different ecosystem into a fresh, small firm.
Yeah, I was at the U for 15 years and learned that working for a large organization was lovely in terms of support, but I didn't have much control. That if I wanted influence over how things were, I only had so much. And I was learning about leadership and learning that, I bet there's places that do it a little better. I had great leaders when I was at the U, but I saw a lot of things that made me question leadership. So I started looking around, and then I knew that there were some great organizations out there and thought maybe I'll go into one of them, a Medtronic, for example, and looking to do that. But then I thought of, would I really find any big organization much different? I knew Lee Bailey from professional associations, and that we were both a part of, and I'd always really respected him and thought he had a lot of quality and understood human beings. He didn't just learn a technique. He understood people, and he truly cared about them. And so I decided to call him up one day just to network with him, and it ended up that they were looking at hiring someone part-time, and that ended up being me. And so someone used the analogy that I was like a little animal in a cage, and someone threw my door open and said, go, and they just sort of dumped me out into the real world. And it was quite the transition, but it was right. I didn't think much about it. I had what I needed. We discussed what I needed. I discussed with my husband what we needed from our family, and I just felt like it was the right thing, and I didn't really have any questions. And was I convinced it would work? No, but it was worth it.
Yeah.
And so then I came over and I started doing the career practice as Lee switched over to more leadership development.
Yeah.
And then after a few years, I began doing the leadership coaching, and that's primarily what I do now.
Yes. We had Lee on the podcast last week. He described you as entrepreneurial. What do you
Mhm.
think he saw in you? And why do you think?
I heard that too. And I said, wow, I do not know, except perhaps that, I was given a pilot program
Yeah.
and
You
they didn't have much idea of what to do with it.
Yeah.
So I went and I did my academic thing. I
Yes.
started reading what it should look like. And so I didn't think of myself as entrepreneurial as much as I thought about what needed to be done to make it a good program and started reading and networking and looking at all the models and trying to make the best model that we could work. And so maybe that's what he saw because I to me, it was always seeking quality and seeking what was going to really help.
Yeah.
And I wasn't afraid to try those things,
Right.
even if they may have been different than what had been done before, because I thought, well, this is what people really need to get where they want to get, so let's offer them that.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. So you started with career coaching.
Yes.
Now you coach CEOs, executive leaders. You do a lot of team development. You do cohort leadership development. Talk
Mhm.
to us about that transition, that
Yeah.
journey.
It seemed pretty seamless. Because when you're doing the career coaching that I did, it starts with the same thing that leadership coaching starts with, which was a lot of assessment, deep assessment, nuanced assessment into what are your natural talents? What are your blind spots? What do you really love? When are you losing track of time? When are you doing what you're doing and you feel like you're falling off a log? You don't even have to try, and and what is the feedback you get from others? That's where good leadership coaching and good career coaching starts. So I already done half of it. The second part is about what does it take to be a great leader, and it is about emotional intelligence and about a drive for results, and it's balancing those things. I believe that there's 4 basic competencies that leaders need to have, and I always say that to my clients that you need to get an A in 3 of the 4,
Okay.
and you could get a B in the 4th one. But you really have to do well in all of them. You can't get a C in one
Sure.
or a D or an F in one.
Yep.
And those things are, one is results leadership. So the ability, can you get things done? Do you know what excellence looks like? Do you drive, regardless of the challenges in your way, do you drive to get those things completed and done well? A second is people leadership. Can you listen to people? Do you truly, truly care about individuals and what they want in their lives? Do you want to help them and coach them and help them get better? Then there's thought leadership, which is the strategic part of being a leader, which is how can I make good decisions? How do I think about the organization from an enterprise-wide perspective? And then the fourth is self-leadership, which is kind of maturity. It's about being humble. It's about character. It's about being open-minded and curious. It's about having the courage of your convictions, and it's understanding yourself and your blind spots. We all have a little 7th grader inside of us that tries to protect ourselves or tries to act in ways that isn't the best, but it helps us feel better for whatever reason. We learn those things when we're kids, and we just learn how to keep trying to protect ourselves.
Yeah.
That those aren't leaders need to have that ability to think bigger than themselves and to think about what's necessary for the organization, the stakeholders. So those were competencies that in counseling you try to help everyone develop. It's character development in some
Sure.
ways.
Yeah.
And that is what I learned. The best leaders balanced all of those needs. They thought about themselves and they knew what they were good at and they had confidence, but they also cared about others. They cared about the success of the organization. They were smart, good problem solvers, objective thinkers. They were listened to the opinions of other people. They didn't think they had all the answers. And helping leaders learn all of those competencies and the complexity that it takes to be multifaceted, that's not for everyone.
Sure.
And it is it's a constantly balancing act,
Yeah.
is what I find with leaders.
I'm sure it varies widely and is very personality dependent and experience dependent. But which of those is the hardest to get an A in, Barb?
Oh boy. I don't I'd say probably self-leadership is probably the hardest to get an A in.
And why do you think that is?
Because it's all a polarity, if you know what a polarity is. A polarity is something where we think it has a right and a wrong, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
The answer is to swim between the shore. So a polarity, for example, is it more important to have employees that are engaged or get the results? Well, they're both important.
Right.
And at a given moment in time, you might be moving toward one pole and say, at this moment, we've got to get the results and we need to put interpersonal concerns on a back seat. The next moment, you need to take the interpersonal and have that be first. But it's not black and white and it's not all or nothing. You have to balance those things.
Yeah.
And that to me is what self-leadership is, understanding yourself enough to know my comfort zone might be results. My comfort zone might be thought leadership. My comfort zone might be people leadership. But all of that is required. And to me, that's what the self-leadership is all about. It's developing that self-awareness and to be able to understand yourself and others enough to look beyond. Sometimes when I try to tell leaders is, when you're listening to someone, I don't listen for what their exact words are. I'm looking for, what are they trying to tell me? What are they feeling? What are they thinking? What are they trying to do? And when you look at it that way, people's exact words become less important because you're listening beyond the exact words and listening for, what is that person experiencing at this moment? And how do I help them express that? How do I help them get there, if indeed that's the right thing in the situation?
How do you do that, Barb? How do you listen beyond the words?
You learn not to take things personally. I'm amazed.
How do you do that?
Well, a work in progress. I think because I've been a coach now for 40 years, that I understand that there's lots of phrases people use. I don't know how to explain this. There are lots of there's a human experience that I do believe that most human beings don't get up in the morning and try to screw up.
Yeah.
They don't get up in the morning and try to hurt people's feelings. They don't get up in the morning and try to protect themselves. But those are human things to do. And so I think when people feel safe, they can make good choices and they can more openly look at themselves. That's when I have grown most as an individual, is when I've had someone safe who accepts me as I am, flaws and all, mistakes and all, and helps me grow. And I'm okay at looking at those mistakes when I feel safe. And that's what I believe most people want to feel safe. And then you can get the best out of them.
Wow. So I'd imagine that's a big part of the coaching that you do, creating the safe space for people to experiment, to question things, to explore and examine beliefs that they have. What else does coaching do for people?
I've always believed, and I learned this early on, is that everyone wants to be understood. They want to know that you hear me and you get me. And the second thing we all want is not to feel crazy, to feel like we're okay. And that's what I try to give my clients, is listening for, yes, do they make mistakes? Do they say things they wish they hadn't said? Do they do things they wish they hadn't done? Of course, that's the human condition. But they often do that unintentionally, or they do that because they don't understand the consequences or how it lands on another person.
Sure.
But once they realize that, again, most people, there's 5-10% of the world that are probably personality disordered, that probably don't much care. But most people that we work with are good human beings that are trying the best they can, and they make mistakes. So helping clients to, I hear you, this is what you're trying to say, naming the feeling, the experience, that the person had is so critical in coaching. It sounds so simple.
Yeah.
And sometimes when I try to explain coaching to someone who's never had a coach, they often think, what does that do? And then it's like, if you've never had someone listen to you that way, you probably don't know what that's like.
Sure.
But the power of just being able to say to someone, so this is what you've experienced, and this is what's going through your head, and these were all the mixed feelings you were having, and these were all the number of feelings you were having. to have them go, yes, the complexity of it's not just one thing or another, that to really get someone and then to say you're okay. Having those thoughts, those feelings, making those mistakes, you can do better next time.
Yeah. Talk to us about why that's so important, Barb. What impact does it have on the individual?
That then they don't have to, I find that they don't have to prove to me they're okay.
Mm.
They can believe that they're okay as a person.
Yep.
Not that their behavior is always correct,
Right.
not that what they said was always correct, not that what they did was always correct, but that they are okay, but they made a mistake. And if you think you're okay, then I think, at least my experience is, you can then take risks to try new things that feel uncomfortable.
Sure.
You can then try something that you've never tried before because you've tried a bunch of things and they don't work. I mean, when I'm working with people and they tell me about all the things they've tried to make their leadership journey better, and then I'm suggesting and we're talking about something that they've never tried before, they look at me and they go, well, I don't know if that's going to work. And I don't know if that it's going to work either. But what you've done isn't going to work. So we've tried that. So let's try this. And that takes some trusting of yourself. It takes experiencing being uncomfortable, and it takes being able to recover. I'm not from the Bobby Knight school of coaching that believes that I think there are some people that respond very well to that.
And when you say that, what do you mean?
I'm going to challenge you and you'll make it or you'll break. And I'll criticize you and I will be tough on you in order to motivate you, because you'll get tired of me. You'll prove to me how great you are.
Yeah.
And I'm not a proponent of that, though I do believe that there are some people who do respond very well to that. I'm not one of them.
Yep.
Most people I know don't
Not either.
respond to that. So I believe most people want to know that they're okay and that they matter and they have something to contribute and they have some talents that they give to the world. And I want people to get that from their job if possible. And so that's from my career coaching. And once you have that, and then those that love to do leadership, who really love leadership, that's what leadership is. It's about the thought leadership and a people leadership, a results leadership. And so it's about all of it and the complexity of all the different stakeholders, and there are no right, easy answers when you're a leader.
What do you think would surprise people most about leaders at the top of the house? So you've had the opportunity, the privilege to sit with some of these folk. Give us a peek behind the curtain.
I think what would surprise people is how much they care, and how they doubt themselves. I've been surprised. I've been surprised by tears. Almost every leader I've ever worked with has at least at some point had tears. And not because they're sad, but because we're touching a real deep, important issue to them. I know that when I talk to people who don't work with senior leaders, they think that their senior leaders they know really don't care and are just at a distance, and they put their pants on, skirts on, just like everyone else, and they are want the same things. They might be a little bit more driven than some people. They might have some needs for achievement that other people don't have. They might like their jobs to the exclusion of some leisure activities. But the amount that many leaders agonize over decisions they need to be made, the amount that it bothers them if they have to let someone go, just the heart that is the big heart that is in so many great leaders that I know, I think that would surprise some people.
Why do you think that is? Is it that self-management that leaders are portraying a steadiness, a calmness, a distance to an extent?
Yeah. It's a hard job. Depending on the size of your company, it's a hard job. And you're in a fishbowl. No one wants a puddle, a leader to show up in a puddle of, oh, I don't know what to do and we're not going to be able to handle this. Even if they feel that way. I don't believe that authenticity means showing up, saying and doing and feeling everything. I believe that leaders do need, they can express doubts, but they need to have a sense that we're all going to get through this.
Yeah.
No matter how difficult the situation, they can express how difficult and challenging situations are. But if people don't pick up from the leader that they think you can handle it, I can handle it, we together can get through this, then that's not as effective. So I don't believe in total authenticity. But that, so there is some expectations of a leader that, there's probably some things you shouldn't share with everyone. There are some limits to that authenticity. And you have to know when those are and when to let it down, when not to.
We were talking about what individuals who may not have ascended to the highest levels of leadership might be surprised to learn about their leaders. What I heard you saying, Barb, was the humanness that is still present in every human in the workforce, regardless of title or level.
Yes, it's there. Now, does it show? No. Do people feel like they don't want to show it to everyone because not everyone feels safe, or because someone doesn't understand them, or they don't feel that they can be that? Yeah, absolutely. That occurs. Unfortunately, it occurs.
So you've talked a lot about how self-awareness is so critical from a developmental standpoint, from a fit standpoint. I'm curious to learn, what have you learned about yourself, Barb, over your 40 years?
You know, I don't know that I ever believed that I was good at what I did. I always felt like I was a sensitive striver, that I just wanted to be really good.
Yeah.
I wanted to help people. And so I was just motivated by trying to be the best that I could.
Yeah.
But if you'd asked me, what makes you different? What makes you a coach? I still don't know that I really truly understand what makes me different. But the feedback that I've received over the years, I finally sort of sinks in. That I guess that I do things differently than other people and other coaches in terms of the amount that I understand human beings and can articulate what it is that they're thinking and feeling. That is probably my superpower. And
I can absolutely attest to that.
oh, thank you.
That is absolutely one of what I think of our many superpowers.
Yeah. And that is what I try to give all my clients is when, no matter what, whether I'm in a sales call, whether I'm working with someone I don't know, whether I'm working with someone at all, I really, that's what I focus on when I'm talking to people is what are you experiencing? What do you want? What are you trying to tell me that you're not able to articulate to me? That's what I listen for.
Yeah. Where do you think that comes from, Barb? Why do you think that's so important to you personally?
Years of therapy, probably. I think because I need that.
Yeah.
As a person.
Yeah.
It's what I look for from my best friends.
Yeah.
It's what I have in my best friends, is that acceptance and that understanding of who I am, and that allows me to have the foundation to try things and to get out of my comfort zone and to pick myself up when I fail.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And again, it shows the value of being attuned to your own needs.
Yeah. You have to understand that you have them. We all do. As a coach, we have feelings and experiences while we're talking to people. I've had people say things to me that have been very hurtful. And I've learned to just look at them and say, ouch, like, where did that come from? And that's what I mean by not taking it personally. Like, I could respond or go into a puddle but I know that they said that for some reason that was meeting their own need, and they didn't care or weren't thinking about me at that moment.
Yeah.
And that, but what wasn't their intent? Probably wasn't their intent to hurt me. And but I've had some clients that have said things in the guise of feedback or things
Sure.
that have been, hurtful. And I think that's the best response is to go, ouch. And then they look at me like, what do you mean, ouch? And then we can talk about what that was like. And then that was about my stuff as well as what they said.
Sure. Do they all say ouch? Have you received other or I mean, do they all look at you like, what do you mean ouch? Or have you had people just skate on by it? This
No, most of them have been
Okay.
like a little surprised
Okay.
that I was just that's what my response was. I
Yeah.
didn't argue with them. I didn't
Yep.
try to tell them that I didn't attack them back.
Right.
I just was like, ouch,
Mm-hmm.
that hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And they look at me like, that's not what I expected you to say. I think they expected a fight,
Sure.
or they expected something, or they expected they were right,
Yeah.
and that I deserved that.
Yeah. Wow. One of the other superpowers of many that I can list is you have this authenticity about yourself, and you've got this ability, and we've literally heard this feedback verbatim, to say what needs to be said. I'm wondering, in the Midwest, we've got Minnesota nice all over the place. Um, how have you learned to put what's out there out there? I mean, how have you learned to show up authentically and to say what needs to be said with warmth, with compassion, but also not back down when there's really challenging feedback that you have to deliver or really difficult conversations that you need to have?
Number one, it's always compassion in that when I'm saying what I need to say, it's not about making anyone wrong.
Mm,
It's about speaking from my own perspective. And I believe that there are multiple perspectives that are all right,
mhm.
multiple perspectives that are all wrong. So I don't believe what I'm saying is right and you're wrong and I need to make you wrong. So that's one thing, that phrase of making someone else wrong is something which I never want to make someone else wrong. I was born on the East Coast, and even though, and my parents were from the Bronx, and even though they were not necessarily aggressive people, they were kind, caring people. But I grew up sort of listening to, just state your opinion. It doesn't have to agree. And what I have found when I moved to the Midwest, and part of me gets this too, is that people don't want to disagree.
Mm,
It makes them uncomfortable. They don't want to hurt people's feelings. They don't know how to say what they need to say. So it's both this idea that I believe there are so many non-right and non-wrong answers that are just perceptions, and then learning what words to choose that don't wound
mm,
and don't make someone wrong,
mhm,
so they can be open to the fact that we can disagree and we don't have to be mad. We don't have to dislike each other. We don't have to attack each other. We
mhm,
don't have to withdraw from each other. We can actually, I don't have to try to convince you to change your mind.
mhm,
I am just speaking what I feel, and I want to know what you feel.
mm.
And that's the philosophy that I have. And so and I just can't help what I feel sometimes, then that I'm like, no one else has said this, and I it needs to be said out loud because it's a reality.
Mhm.
And it's not usually that I'm sharing a truth, it's just sharing a perspective.
Sure. Which makes it less intimidating for you to put out there.
Yeah. Because and then someone could say, I don't agree with you. Okay, good. Tell me more about what you don't agree with.
Yeah.
I'll tell you more about why I do agree.
Mhm.
I don't believe most decisions leaders make do not have right or wrong answers. They're not that simple.
That's the part that's so hard.
Yes.
I'm curious, Barb. Give us an example of where that's gone. It occurs to me you've had a lot of experience doing this, and I'd imagine sometimes it's gone exceptionally well, and I'd imagine sometimes it went horrible. At least I hope that you've had some experiences where it's gone horrible. Give us an example of one of those times on either end of that spectrum.
Yeah. So when I've spoken up when it hasn't been appreciated, um, yes. When I have not been as skillful, is when I have wanted someone to keep hearing me when they were trying to tell me what to do,
Mm,
like a boss. I
mhm.
can remember years ago with a boss that I disagreed with his strategy of how to handle something, and there
Sure.
was some things I didn't understand. And I kept saying, I think, because I felt like I wasn't being heard.
Hmm.
What I learned later that person thought I was saying was, I'm not listening to you and I'm not going to do what you told me.
Ah,
And so I learned that was a difficult lesson because I got put in my place about, don't really care what you want to do. I'm your boss now, and I'm done with this conversation, and
interesting.
bothered me quite a bit. But I learned from it that there are times that you don't need to be heard, and that someone else is making a decision that has information you don't know and you
Hmm.
don't understand.
What would you have done differently if you had come back?
I would have been more articulate about here are my assumptions that I'm making, and here's why I feel so important about that. I'm hearing that you want me to do it a different way. Help me understand what I don't see here, and I would ask more questions rather than just telling what I wanted the person to know.
Sure. That's helpful. Thank you for sharing. What have been some big influences in your life and your career, Barb? Books, podcasts, formative experiences.
Yeah. Uh, Books are back to my career days. The book Callings by Greg Lavoie, books by Barbara Sher. If you could do anything, if I only knew what it was. Richard Leiter's, so those books have been useful. The Leadership Pipeline is another more recent book. Lee Bailey has been incredibly influential as a mentor, as a friend, as a coworker. He gave me my start, took a risk on me, and helped me to become the coach I am now by watching him and learning from him. So, Kate Schaefer's is another person. I've been her boss. She's been my boss. We've been friends. She is nothing but she's wise and she's supportive and fun, and we're able to be honest with each other. So it's probably people, but more than books. But certainly there are books that I've read that changed my way of thinking. Being Mortal by Atul Gawande, which is he's a doctor and it talks about getting older. So there are so many influences. It just even agility trainers. Should I do dog agility? And even agility trainers have been useful in stock and in agility, teaching me about myself. Because when you train a dog, when people think it's about training the dog, but it's training the human to train the dog.
I can relate to that with parenting.
Yes. And so I take a lot of classes in dog training, and you learn a lot about yourself doing that, and you find yourself failing all the time in that, but you try again, and your dog is very forgiving. So,
What have you learned about yourself through dog training?
oh boy, that, my experience goes through the leash. And so, and that I can't take my dog's behavior personally,
Mm,
and that my dog isn't trying to be naughty. My dog is doing what my dog is trying to do, the best of his or her ability.
yeah.
And if he or she can't do something, they don't know how. They're not trying to be willful.
Yes.
They're not trying to be a pain in my neck.
Yes.
That they don't understand. And I can get disappointed in their performance, like I can get disappointed in my own performance. And I have to learn to say, oh, well, what's going on, right? What is going on? That probably something they don't understand. How do I teach them? They can't, my dogs can't explain. So you have to do a lot of observation and a lot of trial and error when you're training a dog.
And wow, are those skills and learnings transferable to the workforce?
Oh, absolutely. I used to write blog posts, everything I need to know about leadership I learned from my dog, because it's all about learning about yourself and how you are part of the equation in leadership. As a leader, you are part of that equation. It's not, things don't happen in spite of you. They don't happen because of you. They happen with you. And everyone contributes. If there are conflicts, if there's success, everybody in a work group contributes to what's going on,
Yeah.
and we feed off each other. And
Mhm.
I feed off my dogs, and they feed off me. And we all influence each other because human beings are social animals, just like dogs are social
Yeah.
animals.
Wow. Barb, you've had the opportunity to work with, I'm sure, hundreds and hundreds of different executives. From your vantage point, what do you see most often keeps people stuck?
Mhm.
How are they getting in their own way?
One thing I see is that they don't believe that they know what hasn't worked. Like, we usually talk about the different strategies they've employed to pull a lever,
Sure.
whether it be a people lever or a strategy lever. Just, we could try this. And we might talk about something they've never tried, and they don't believe it'll work.
Mm,
So they won't
Interesting.
try it.
without ever having tried it.
Right. And then that once I realize that that's what they're really trying to tell me, because they usually don't tell me to my face, I don't believe you, and I don't believe that'll work.
Oh,
But
interesting.
every once in a while I'll say, so I feel like we're having this conversation where we're talking about something and you keep yes butting it. So meaning that you don't want to try it. And I'm curious what sounds wrong about this. What don't you want to try? And they'll go, well, I don't believe that what you're telling me is not going to just make everything worse. And I'm like, oh, okay. So let's talk about that. And so I find that there's things that we don't try
Yeah.
because we don't believe it'll work, or we're uncomfortable and we feel like we might lose control or it might get worse. So that's one way, I think. And then
How do you help people move past that, Barb?
let's talk about what's the worst that you're fearing,
Sure.
and how do you prepare for it, respond to it. So we might role play if they're going to have a difficult conversation or have a conversation. I might if they're really unclear, I might be them. Like, so
Sure.
sometimes I'll play them and they play the difficult person.
Yep.
And then I show them how, and I said, be as awful as you think they might
Yeah.
be.
Yep.
And they're not people usually aren't as awful as that, but they fear that, any number of things will happen. The person will burst out crying. The person will yell at them. The person will have lots of emotions, is usually what we're worried about.
Mhm.
And they won't be able to get them to do what they want them to do. And I say, well, let's give up that need first of all.
Yeah.
Let's talk about how you can't control what they will do or won't do. It's a matter of keeping your balance
Yeah.
in the face of whatever they say or do.
Mm.
And let's talk about all the things they might say or do that would leave you flummoxed, leave you frozen, leave you with your jaw hanging open. How am I supposed to respond to that? And let's talk about what you would do. So it's about preparation so that
Sure.
people feel that they have an out.
Yeah.
They feel like that they won't feel so out of control and feel powerless in those
Yep.
situations.
Barb, thank you so much for spending the time with us.
Thank you.
Learned so much from you and your wealth of information and experiences and insight. So thank you for sharing those. It's a true gift to us and to all the listeners out there.
Well, thank you.
Thanks for joining us for today's episode of Leadership Matters. If today's episode resonated with you, would you do me a favor and share it with someone you care about? To learn more about the work the Bailey Group is doing in the world, check us out at thebaileygroup.com or follow us over on LinkedIn. We love sharing useful articles, helpful resources, and valuable tools to help you expand your leadership capacity. Like and subscribe, and join us next time for more honest conversations.